In a world overflowing with noise, distraction, and fleeting moments, there is something irresistibly magnetic about a person who stands apart, not by shouting louder, but by living deeper. If you want to occupy space in someone's mind, not just for a moment, but for a lifetime, it is not about tricks, gimmicks, or forced charm. It is about cultivating the right habits that over time etch you into the very architecture of another's memory. Welcome to the Everlasting Stoic. Here, we uncover not shortcuts, but the only true path, one paved with discipline, wisdom, and presence. If you are serious about mastering yourself and commanding the respect, admiration, and affection of those around you, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and stay with me until the end of this video. You will walk away not with empty promises, but with the blueprint for becoming unforgettable. Let us begin. 1. Remain calm in the chaos. There is a certain alchemy in calmness, a transmutation of mere existence into a force of nature. The rare soul who maintains composure while others fray at the edges does not merely command attention. They earn it. They become a fixed star in a turbulent sky, a reference point for those tossed in the storms of life. Remaining calm in the chaos is not passive. It is not resignation. It is, instead, an active defiance of external circumstances. It is choosing, deliberately, to respond rather than react, to anchor yourself in reason when emotion seeks to tear you away. When a heated argument rises, the calm individual speaks little, but observes much. Their silence weighs heavier than another's shouted words. When calamity strikes, they move with precision, not panic. This kind of calmness is stoic by nature and revolutionary by consequence. It creates an almost gravitational pull. People instinctively trust the one who is unshaken, even when they cannot articulate why. But this state is not stumbled upon. It is forged in the fires of daily self-discipline. It is built through rituals that center you. Journaling your thoughts before bed, walking alone without the tyranny of a phone, breathing deeply when impatience threatens to hijack you. It is fortified by the constant rehearsal of an internal mantra: I am not ruled by what is outside me. When you are the calm in another's storm, you become their safe harbor. And human beings, consciously or not, always remember the places where they felt safe. Imagine someone thinking about you days after a difficult conversation, not because you out-argued them, but because you remained unmoved and deeply present. Imagine being the steady presence they replay in their mind when the noise of the world grows too loud. Calmness becomes unforgettable because it offers something increasingly rare: peace. Make it your project to become the person who, when everything else trembles, stands steady. Do this, and you will not just be remembered, you will be needed. 2. Stick to your core principles. If calmness is the foundation, then adherence to your principles is the architecture of your soul. There is nothing more captivating than someone who knows who they are and does not bend that identity for fleeting approval. The masses drift with every current, adjusting their colors to match the environment, sacrificing their authenticity for temporary comfort. But the individual who clings to their core principles, even when doing so costs them something in the short term, radiates a kind of magnetism that no clever wordplay or flashy display can imitate. You must, therefore, know your principles deeply. They cannot be borrowed beliefs or trendy slogans you wear like clothes for different seasons. They must be lived truths etched into the stone of your being through trial, error, contemplation, and experience. When you stick to your principles, you become consistent in a world addicted to inconsistency. You become predictable, not in your habits, but in your integrity. You become a paradox, unshakable, yet deeply human. There is a fierce attractiveness to someone who says no, when it is easier to say yes. There is an undeniable strength in the person who refuses an invitation to pettiness, to betrayal, to cowardice, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Adherence to principles does not make you rigid. It makes you reliable. It tells others, you may not always like what I say. You may not always agree with what I do, but you will always know who I am. And in a world obsessed with masks and mirages, this kind of steadfastness is oxygen. People will think about you, not just for how you made them feel, but for the rare mirror you held up to them. A mirror reflecting a life lived with honor, not convenience. Imagine someone wrestling with a difficult decision, and in the quiet of their mind, your example emerges, not because you preached to them, but because you lived in a way that made integrity seem not just admirable but attainable. So let me ask you this. What are your core principles? The few truths you would rather lose friends, jobs, or comfort than betray. Share one of them in the comments. State it boldly, as a public declaration to yourself and to the world. Let us together create a living tapestry of courage and conviction. One principle, one voice at a time. 3. Master the nonverbal. Long before the first word is spoken, long before thought finds its way to language, communication has already happened. A look, a posture, a slight shift in the breath. The subtlest signs, those we often dismiss because they escape the radar of conscious awareness, are, in truth, the bedrock of how we are perceived and remembered. If you want someone to think about you, if you want to lodge yourself in the deep currents of their memory, you must master the realm of the nonverbal. Words can deceive, but the body rarely lies. And in this space, authenticity and self-mastery reign supreme. Consider this: the way you enter a room speaks volumes before you open your mouth. The way you listen, or fail to listen, is visible long before you reply. The set of your jaw under stress, the openness or guardedness of your shoulders, the slow deliberateness of your hand gestures. All these are silent ambassadors representing your inner world to the outer one. Mastering the nonverbal begins with mastery of the self. You cannot fake it sustainably. Tension will betray you. Incongruence will leak through the cracks. Therefore, you must cultivate inner stillness so that your outer frame follows naturally. Practice awareness without judgment. How do you sit when you are truly relaxed? How do you hold yourself when you believe you are worthy of being heard without needing to force that belief onto others? Slow your movements slightly. Speak not only with words, but with controlled pauses, intentional gestures, and a gaze that is steady without being invasive. Do not underestimate the power of the gaze. The right kind of eye contact, sustained enough to convey presence, soft enough to invite safety, steady enough to imply confidence, has a way of branding itself into memory. People may forget what you said. They may forget what you wore. But they will rarely forget how it felt to be seen, truly seen by you. And that feeling, that invisible, undeniable imprint, is what pulls minds back toward you even when you are not present. Train yourself daily in subtlety. Next time you converse with someone, say less. Let your body say more. Next time you wish to influence a room, adjust your breathing first. Calm, slow, grounded. And let that invisible thread of energy set the tone. When you master the nonverbal, you no longer need to announce your presence. Your presence is felt before it is heard. This kind of mastery is not performative. It is transformative. And the more deeply you embody it, the more people will find themselves inexplicably drawn to you, thinking about you at odd hours, wondering what it was about you that made them feel a little more awake, a little more alive. 4. Spark emotion through curiosity. Human beings are not rational creatures who sometimes feel. We are emotional creatures who sometimes reason. If you wish to be unforgettable, to linger in someone's mind the way a melody haunts long after the music fades, you must learn to touch their emotions, not with manipulation, but with authentic curiosity. Curiosity is a magnetic force because it signals something extraordinarily rare: genuine interest. Most conversations in the modern world are thinly disguised monologues. Two egos jostling for attention, each waiting for their turn to speak rather than truly listening. Amidst this desert of self-absorption, the person who asks meaningful questions, who listens not to respond but to understand, becomes a refreshing oasis. To spark emotion through curiosity, you must approach others with reverence. Not the brittle politeness of obligation, but the fierce reverence that recognizes, here before you stands an entire universe of unseen struggles, victories, fears, longings, and contradictions. Most people have never had someone take a sincere interest in the architecture of their mind, the landscape of their heart. Be that person. Ask questions that cut through the noise. Instead of "How was your day?" ask, "What made you feel alive today?" Instead of "What do you do?" ask, "What kind of work makes you lose track of time?" And when they answer, listen, not passively, but actively, with your full body, with eyes that soften instead of harden, with a posture that leans not forward to interrogate, but forward to invite. Do not rush to fill silences. Allow their words to breathe. Allow emotions to rise and settle. It is often in the spaces between words that the deepest revelations surface.
When you are curious, genuinely curious, people feel seen.
They feel valued. They feel alive in your presence, because you make parts of them come alive that they had long since buried. This emotional awakening is not something they will consciously calculate. It is far too deep for that. It will register in their bones, not their brains. And in quiet moments, when they are alone, they will find their mind wandering back to you. Not because you dazzled them with your achievements, not because you impressed them with your wit, but because you made them feel real. Understand this well. People remember not what you accomplished, but how you made them feel about themselves. Authentic curiosity is a bridge between souls. It requires patience, humility, and a genuine love of discovery. It is not a tactic. It is a way of being. If you want to become unforgettable, become insatiably curious. Not in a probing, intrusive way, but in the gentle, reverent manner of one who knows that every life is a cathedral worth exploring. As you reflect on this, I invite you to share in the comments. What is one meaningful question you wish someone would ask you? A question that would make you feel seen, understood, and alive. By writing it down, you do two things. You honor yourself, and you give others a window into what it truly means to connect beyond the surface. Let us become the architects of deeper conversations. One question at a time. 5. Listen with full presence. In an age obsessed with speaking louder, being seen more, and cutting through the noise, the most radical act you can perform is the act of deep listening. Not the kind of shallow listening that waits for its turn to interrupt. Not the half-hearted nodding that masks impatience. But real, full-bodied, soul-centered listening. The kind that transforms the listener into a mirror, a container, and a quiet witness to another's unspoken world. Listening, true listening, is among the rarest and most potent of human gifts. And when you offer it, you become unforgettable, not because you inserted yourself into their story, but because you gave them the space to unfold. When someone speaks to you, their words are only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface lies an entire submerged mass of emotion. Longing, fear, hope, contradiction. To listen is to see the invisible architecture behind the words. It is to hear the tremor beneath the laugh. It is to notice the hesitation before a confession. It is to catch the small crack in a voice that otherwise seems steady. Presence means that you are not elsewhere in your mind. You are not thinking of your next clever reply. You are not mentally rehearsing your story that one-ups theirs. You are simply there, with them for them. This kind of presence is magnetic because it is so rare. We live in an epidemic of inattentiveness. Most people are starved for even a few moments of genuine, undivided attention. When you give it to them, they will feel it like rain in a desert. To cultivate full presence, begin with the breath. Slow, conscious breaths anchor you into the now. Drop the need to fix or solve. Listening is not problem solving. It is witnessing. Focus on the speaker's emotions, not just their facts. Allow silence to exist without panic. Silence is not awkwardness. It is space for truth to surface. When you listen in this way, you will notice a subtle shift. People will lean toward you without realizing it. They will confide in you things they have never said aloud. They will walk away feeling lighter, more whole. And they will think about you not because you dazzled them, but because you heard them into existence. You will find yourself invited into the deepest parts of people's lives, not because you demanded it, but because your presence earned it. You do not need to be the loudest voice in the room. You do not need to be the most charismatic or the most eloquent. You only need to be the most present. And in doing so, you will become unforgettable in the way that truly matters, in the way that changes people. Now reflect for a moment. Who is the person in your life who made you feel most heard, most seen? What did they do differently from the rest? If you feel called to share, I invite you to leave a comment below. Tell us about that person. Honor their impact. And let us together rediscover the lost art of sacred listening. 6. Trust the slow burn. Modern life demands immediacy. Swipe now. Get now. Answer now. Impress now. But human connection, real, lasting, soul-deep connection, does not yield to the timelines of impatience. It grows at the speed of trust. It unfolds with the patience of rivers carving canyons. If you wish to be the kind of person who lingers in another's mind long after the moment has passed, you must abandon the craving for instant results. You must trust the slow burn. The slow burn is not spectacular at first glance. It does not dazzle the senses or intoxicate the mind with fireworks. It is quieter, subtler, the way an ember glows steadily beneath ash, the way roots grow unseen beneath the earth before the tree can pierce the sky. To trust the slow burn is to understand that depth cannot be rushed. Affection built in haste often collapses just as quickly. Respect earned too easily is often respect easily lost. When you allow connections to unfold naturally, you give others time to discover you layer by layer, rather than being overwhelmed by a persona you perform. You build trust not with grand gestures, but with small, consistent actions. You create an aura of mystery, not the contrived mystery of withholding, but the genuine richness of a soul that cannot be understood in a single encounter. Think of the greatest friendships, the deepest loves, the most lasting mentors you have had. Were they instant, or were they cultivated over time, through shared struggles, silent moments, loyalty proven under pressure? When you trust the slow burn, you become a presence people return to again and again, seeking not a hit of novelty, but the steady warmth of real connection. You inspire curiosity, a desire to know more, to stay longer, to return repeatedly to the well of your character. You disarm suspicion, because you are not trying to sell yourself. You are simply being. This patience is powerful. It signals to others that you are not desperate, not urgent, not grasping. It tells them, I am not here to take something from you. I am here to build something with you, if you are willing. People will often resist or reject what comes too easily, but what unfolds slowly, patiently. Over time, that kind of connection earns a reverence that lasts. There is wisdom in not rushing the reveal of yourself. There is magic in allowing others to wonder, to discover, to realize over time the depth of your presence. And once they realize it, once they have tasted the rare, unhurried richness you offer, they will think of you not as a fleeting experience, but as a part of the very fabric of their memory. So breathe deeper, move slower, trust that what is built patiently is built permanently. I leave you with a reflection. Think of a bond in your life that took months, even years, to fully form: a friendship, a mentorship, a romance. What made it worth the wait? Share your story in the comments, if you feel called. Let us remind each other, the most beautiful fires are not those that explode, but those that endure. 7. Decode behavior with clarity. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, and one of the greatest reasons why you will be thought of long after you leave a room, is the ability to see people as they truly are, not as you wish them to be, not as they pretend to be, but as they are: raw, vulnerable, beautiful, and broken all at once. The world is crowded with those who live asleep, swept away by their biases, assumptions, and projections. To stand apart, to become unforgettable, you must awaken. You must learn to decode behavior with clarity. Decoding behavior is not about cold analysis or manipulative advantage. It is about compassion with discernment. It is about seeing deeper than the facade. Not to judge, but to understand. Every word, every gesture, every glance carries within it 1,000 silent truths. The person who interrupts constantly is not merely rude. They are likely starved for significance. The one who brags endlessly about minor victories is not merely boastful. They are often battling an invisible fear of inadequacy. The one who withdraws when hurt may not be cold. They may be terrified of their own vulnerability. If you can see this, if you can read the true language behind the performance, you will find yourself operating at a level of social awareness that is rare and precious. And people, even without understanding why, will feel profoundly known by you. To decode behavior with clarity requires several inner disciplines. First, the discipline of silence. Observe twice as much as you speak. Second, the discipline of humility. Assume you know less than you think. Third, the discipline of empathy. Always ask, what might this person be protecting? Fourth, the discipline of patience. Truth often reveals itself slowly, like mist clearing from a valley at dawn. When you listen not just to words but to patterns, you begin to see the architecture of a person's inner world. When you notice not just what is said, but what is unsaid, you begin to perceive their secret fears and hidden hopes. This clarity gives you options. You can choose to heal instead of harm. You can choose to offer safety instead of challenge. You can choose to inspire growth rather than provoke defense. And in doing so, you will become the rare presence that lingers, the one who made them feel understood when they themselves could not find the words. Think about this. Most people live misunderstood even by themselves. The one who sees them with gentle clarity becomes unforgettable because they offer something rare and almost sacred. The feeling of being known and still accepted. There is an old saying, "To understand all is to forgive all." I would amend it slightly. To understand much is to love wisely. Practice every day, in every conversation. Ask yourself not just what are they saying, but what are they truly expressing? You will find over time that you see beyond moods, beyond masks, into the deeper waters where real connection waits. Reflect for a moment. Have you ever felt truly seen by someone? What was it about their presence, their listening, their perception that made you feel safe? If you feel called to share, leave a comment below. Tell your story of being seen or your hunger for it. Let us remind each other, real sight is a gift, and real sight leaves an eternal imprint on the soul. 8. Lead with quiet empathy. Leadership is often misunderstood. It is too often confused with dominance, with volume, with the ability to command attention through sheer force. But the deepest form of leadership, the kind that shapes destinies, transforms relationships, and leaves an echo long after your footsteps fade, is something far quieter, far stronger. It is leading with empathy, and not just empathy expressed in words, but empathy lived silently, consistently, almost invisibly. Quiet empathy is the force that moves mountains without shouting. It is the strength to feel what another feels, without needing to take the stage. It is the maturity to prioritize understanding over winning, connection over control. When you lead with quiet empathy, you become the rare individual who offers shelter without demanding gratitude. You become the one whose strength is made more profound by its lack of spectacle. Empathy does not mean agreeing with everything or tolerating all behaviors. It means seeing clearly, holding space for another's experience, without needing to immediately insert your own. When a friend falters, the quiet, empathetic leader does not say, "I told you so." They say with their presence alone, "I am here. You are not alone." When a loved one vents anger or fear, the quiet, empathetic leader does not react defensively. They breathe, they absorb, and they respond with the gentleness that only those confident in their own foundation can offer. This kind of leadership builds loyalty that cannot be bought. It creates relationships rooted not in performance or transaction, but in something elemental and enduring. To cultivate quiet empathy, learn to listen past the anger, to the pain beneath. Learn to hear past the complaints, to the unmet needs hidden underneath. Learn to resist the urge to fix or lecture or retaliate. Simply be with. In practicing this, you will discover that people open themselves to you in ways they never have before. Walls will lower, vulnerabilities will surface, and when they do, you will be entrusted with the sacred task of holding another's rawness with respect. Empathy does not weaken you. It strengthens you in ways louder forms of power never can. It makes you the lighthouse rather than the crashing wave, steady, enduring, and needed. And in time, people will find themselves thinking of you, seeking you, yearning for the safety and strength you represent. Not because you demanded it, but because you became it. The world is starved for such leadership. Be the one who offers it without needing applause. Reflect on this deeply. What is one moment in your life when someone led you quietly, with empathy rather than force? How did it change you? If you wish, share your story in the comments. Each story strengthens the reminder that true leadership begins not in the voice, but in the heart. 9. Find power in solitude. Solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is the hunger for others from a place of emptiness. Solitude is the standing strong within yourself, The ability to be complete without needing the noise of the world to validate your existence. In a culture drowning in constant stimulation, constant distraction, constant validation seeking, the one who can stand alone becomes rare, and what is rare becomes valuable. What is self-sufficient becomes magnetic. If you want them to think about you when you are not present, you must become someone who is at peace when alone. You must become someone who does not vanish without attention, but who deepens in absence. The person who is whole in solitude radiates an invisible strength, a gravity that pulls others without desperate effort. They sense it. In your silence that does not demand to be filled. In your comfort with pauses that others find unbearable. In your refusal to seek permission to exist. You become a kind of quiet flame, burning steadily, whether or not there are eyes to admire you. To cultivate the power of solitude, spend time deliberately alone. Walk without a phone. Sit by yourself without distraction. Listen to the sound of your own breath, your own thoughts, your own longings. Learn to entertain yourself with the raw materials of imagination and memory. Not needing constant external input, reflect daily. Write not for others to read, but for yourself to discover. Practice being in rooms without trying to dominate them, control them, or disappear from them. Simply solitude. True solitude is generative. It strengthens your identity because it removes the props and costumes the world insists you wear. It asks, who are you when no one is looking? And when you can answer that with clarity, you carry an authenticity into every encounter that is unmistakable. People will think about you when you are gone because your presence lingers differently. You will not have drained them with neediness, nor overwhelmed them with performance. You will have given them something rare. The impression of someone whose roots run deep underground, invisible but undeniable. There is a paradox here. The more you are comfortable being alone, the more people will be drawn to you. The less you seek attention, the more naturally it will find you. Reflect on this. What is one practice you could add to your daily life that would strengthen your solitude? If you feel called, share it in the comments. Solitude is not isolation. Solitude shared in reflection strengthens the tribe of the strong. 10. Own your emotions fully. In the end, the most unforgettable person is not the one who controls every situation, nor the one who always says the perfect thing. It is the one who is emotionally sovereign, the one who owns their emotions fully, without fear, shame, or projection. Emotional sovereignty is rare because it demands radical self-honesty. It is easier to blame the world than to admit, I feel fear, I feel anger, I feel longing. It is easier to lash out, withdraw, manipulate, or numb. But you, if you want to be unforgettable, must walk the harder road. You must learn to feel everything while letting nothing master you. To own your emotions. Name them precisely, not just bad or good, but grief, resentment, longing, envy, joy. Language is the handle by which you can lift and examine the heavy stones of the soul. Sit with them without rushing to change them. Anger does not need immediate action. Sadness does not need immediate distraction. Trace them to their roots. Most anger masks hurt. Most pride masks insecurity. Most avoidance masks fear. Choose your response consciously. You are not what you feel. You are the one who notices what you feel and chooses your course. When you own your emotions, you become deeply trustworthy because others can feel the congruence in you. There are no hidden traps, no sudden explosions, no silent withdrawals. You are consistent not because you never feel, but because you feel deeply and remain anchored. And make no mistake, there is nothing more memorable, more magnetic, more profoundly impactful than someone who can hold intense emotions without becoming a slave to them. Imagine this. In a moment of conflict, where most would shout or retreat, you remain steady, acknowledging your anger, your hurt, your sadness, but choosing dignity over impulse. The other person will feel it. They will remember it. They will respect it even if they cannot yet match it. True emotional mastery does not repress or deny emotions. It acknowledges them fully and transforms them into wisdom, compassion, resilience. When you own your emotions, you free yourself from being manipulated by others. You inspire those around you to rise to a higher emotional standard. You create a kind of fierce serenity that few can forget. Reflect on this. If you had to name the one emotion you most often avoid feeling fully, what would it be? And what might change if you faced it directly? If you feel brave enough, share it in the comments. Owning your emotions publicly, even in a small way, begins the long journey toward true sovereignty. Conclusion. We have walked a long road together. From mastering calmness in chaos, to anchoring ourselves in unwavering principles, from learning the silent power of nonverbal communication, to sparking emotion through genuine curiosity, from cultivating sacred listening, trusting the slow burn, seeing others with clear eyes, leading with quiet empathy, finding strength in solitude, and finally mastering the kingdom of our own emotions. These are not quick tricks. They are not techniques to be applied for temporary effect. They are ways of being, ways of living, ways of becoming unforgettable, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you lived the deepest. If you internalize these habits, you will find that others think about you, not because you demanded it, but because you offered them something the world rarely does: truth, presence, strength, mystery, compassion, peace. And that is a gift that does not fade with time. It deepens. If you have found value here, if you are committed to this deeper path of self-mastery, I invite you to subscribe to the Everlasting Stoic. Hit the like button, not for vanity, but to signal to the algorithm that this kind of content deserves to be shared. And if you wish, share your thoughts below. Tell me which of these 10 habits resonates most with where you are right now in your journey. Let us build a brotherhood, a sisterhood, a fellowship of the rare. Those who choose depth over noise, mastery over gimmick, and eternity over fashion. Until next time, stand tall, walk slowly, and remember, the everlasting impact you leave is not in being louder. It is in being truer.